Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you are new to this channel, we talk about mental health through pop culture. My name's Captain Nostalgia. Today we are diving into the Shudder original, Quicksand. You know, it has been a hot minute since we have had Shudder movies on this page, and I am trying to work all the new releases into my schedule, so hopefully this will be the first of many Shudder releases flooding this channel. So Quicksand tells the story of an estranged couple that go together on a work trip and go hiking, and then hiking basically ends to them sinking in quicksand. This movie kind of feels like open water taken into the woods. There are moments where this movie genuinely got under my skin. I feel like I pride myself on how little I can actually be scared, but this movie found a way to actually kind of get under my skin, draw out my anxiety, every ounce of anxiety and fear that I had in its like 85-minute runtime. But leading up, the first act leading up to kind of the setting up of the premise just feels really cliche. Like, how many times have you seen a husband and a wife that are now separated and having to have kind of some kind of like contact once again, and that contact turns ugly, and it's kind of used to kind of like create drama and tension for the viewer. I feel like it's such a tiresome trope that I'm tired of seeing in movies like this. I think it works out in their favor ultimately in the end, but the setup to the actual premise that takes place in Acts 2 and 3 is just really, really cringy. Like, the writing within the first act of this movie is just really hard to kind of get through. But there's two consistents in this movie that really held my attention and really grounded me. And that's the performances from our lead actor and actress, Andres Castaneda and Caroline Gaitan. The two of them just have such a natural chemistry with one another, but also a natural rivalry that I feel like is just very prominent in this movie, and it's beautifully explored. And I feel like even for some of the cringier scenes within the movie, the two of them still bring their A game. The other fact is that this movie looks absolutely gorgeous. The cinematography by Santiago Ortega. If I mispronounce that name, I deeply apologize. But this movie just absolutely looks stunning. It looks crisp. It just looks absolutely breathtaking and spectacularly beautiful. Not to mention, this movie is paced marvelously. Like, I do have some of my qualms with the first act of this film, but once it just shifts into the actual woods portion of this movie, it becomes one of the best survival horror movies I've seen in a long time. And I think a lot of that goes back to the performances, how the script uses tension and its surrounding areas to create that tension. Well, alright, let's go ahead and run this through the Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give Quicksand a 3.5 out of 5. I think the performances are strong, cinematography is beautiful. Once it actually finds its footing, the tension that it creates between not only the estranged elements between the characters, but also the nature surrounding it is just absolutely beautiful. There are a couple of threads kind of left undone that I just wasn't really interested in or felt underdeveloped, but overall I thought this is a really solid survival horror movie. Now let's talk about mental health. If you guys are new to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we take a theme of mental health out of the film which we're talking about, expand upon it for a few moments in the hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. As one would imagine, one of our central protagonist characters, played by Castaneda in this, becomes hopeless, being stuck in quicksand for multiple hours, which his wife, played by Gaitan, has to constantly tell him that it's going to be okay, bringing hope and kind of reminding that it's not the end. As just a reminder to check in on your friends. Because Castaneda's character in the beginning of the movie is the optimistic one. And somewhere along the way, he becomes the pessimistic one. It's just a reminder that situations can completely change and alter our perception on life and circumstances. Where we once saw light, we now see darkness. Where we once saw hopefulness, we now see hopelessness. So check in on your friends and ask them about their mental health. When was the last time that you actually asked someone about their mental health? It's such an awkward and uncomfortable conversation to have, or even a question to ask, but it's a question worth asking, and it's a conversation worth having. I hope that this is an encouragement to you, and if you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, links are in the show notes below to where you guys can find access to our mental health resource library. Quicksand comes to Shudder beginning July 14th, so make sure that you guys set accordingly. We'll have links in the show notes below if you guys are not signed up for Shudder, how you guys can sign up as well. In the show notes below, you guys will also find links to our social media, more movie reviews like this, our podcast network, Patreon, mental health resource library again, and the subscribe button. So until next time, remember, don't go off trail.